supervise their work depending on the case, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we are done with this position. Let's move on. Do you want to add anything else to this entire position, or do you want to highlight something or mention something that
Um,
needs to be taken out?
the thing, well, I can take stuff out later on my own, but I
Yeah.
think the thing that I want to mention with Arnold Reporter is that I was hired in 2007 to work on one particular case, and that was the visa case, that antitrust
Okay.
case,
Yeah.
and basically all of that other work that's
Yeah.
listed in these bullet points is work that I earned and found for myself, because I
Okay.
came in as a mid-level associate, so I wasn't a known commodity or a known
Yeah.
entity at the firm. So I
Yeah.
had to really
Prove yourself. Yeah.
prove myself and look for work. And ultimately, that was a challenge. And ultimately, maybe I didn't find myself enough work, and that's why I was never going to make partner there. Um,
Yeah.
but I think, there was a level of grit in terms of, trying to survive and fend for
Yeah.
myself in a big place where people were not handing me work because they simply didn't know me.
Yeah.
And that was a challenge. Um,
But you
and
pulled through, right?
I was, yeah, I
You know.
pulled through and I was
Yeah.
proactive and I gained good
Yeah.
experience and good relationships with people. Um, and the result was that, I am where I am now, I guess. I don't, I mean, there's no hard feelings or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, I think, I don't know, again, like, these are those soft things that they're hard to convey on paper. But
Yeah. Um, all right. So for the next position, you were an associate till 2003. So there's like another gap from 2003 to
um,
2007. No,
no,
yeah, 1 year. 1 year.
because
Actually, you were also working from 2004 to 2006. I guess you changed positions. Like you
I
relocated
changed
from
cities.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
that's right.
New York and then DC. Okay.
Yep.
So there's just a year gap, 2006 to 2007. Or was it like a monthly gap? That's
It was a
not really
month. Yeah, it was
okay.
month. It was a
Okay.
month. Like I had a week off in between those two jobs or
All
something.
right.
And then the
That,
same thing with the clerkship. That clerkship down below,
yeah.
that's the 1 year gap in between New York and DC for that other law firm. So
All right.
I started in New York at Case Shulman, then I clerked in New Jersey for a year, and then I
Yeah.
moved to DC and was at Case Shulman for another two
Okay.
years.
Okay. Okay. That clears that up. So you the thing that really popped out to me was the defense of a major pharmaceutical company in federal and
Hmm.
state products liability matters. So can you briefly describe this case? What was it all about? How did you handle the case, and what was the outcome?
Sure. Our client was Pfizer, and this was
Yeah.
the big hormone replacement therapy litigation. Actually, there were two that came
Okay.
later. This one was Celebrex and Vioxx. So we represented Celebrex. Merck was the co-defendant, um, and their product was Vioxx. So it was the anti-inflammatory drug. And
Okay.
I forget what the main allegation was. I think people said that um, it caused heart problems. I'm not sure. But yeah, so we defended Pfizer. The product was Celebrex, and we were getting sued all over the country. Um, and so we were defending in all jurisdictions and all forums, like Texas State Court, Texas
Yeah.
Federal Court, Mississippi, this and that. Um,
Yeah.
so and this was as a relatively junior associate where I was drafting answers, deposition requests, motions, uh, and then in jury instructions were actually in an asbestos trial litigation that actually went to trial.
Okay.
Um, and then expert witnesses for depositions. That was in actually uh, federal, and it was in energy cases, and I want to say it was also in the hormone replacement therapy, the female HRT litigation where the
Yeah.
the injury claim was breast cancer.
Okay.
So yeah, this is not highly moral work.
Yeah.
I've defended pharmaceutical companies. I've worked for tobacco clients. So yeah, I've covered what my husband says at least two aspects of the evil empires in this country. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that was kind of like the nature of that work. It was different products, and I tried to put it like succinctly and lump it all together rather than talk about like all the different
Yeah.
ones. But so I was those were the cases and the products, and the outcomes. Honestly, I think with HRT
Yeah.
um, and Celebrex, I don't know if those cases settled. I think they probably did. I don't
Okay.
think we went to trial many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
But I mean, because it was so big, so many like high stakes.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, and that's the thing with these cases is that they take a life on their own, and
Yeah.
they often will run longer than your tenure at a law firm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so I do not know ultimately um, what
What became of it?
happened. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, okay. You also counsel clients on liability risks and settlement options. While handling the client counseling, did you face any challenges, any difficult clients that you had to deal with? Any certain situation that you'd like to mention?
Um, Not really. The two things that I remember was a government contracts case. Like I don't. It's hard when you have such old stuff on your resume and you don't even remember. But like I remember the partner that I was working for on that case.
Yeah.
I don't remember, and I remember him being difficult. But I don't remember what the case was about.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so
And
like,
then
yeah,
the
it's basically, how did you deal with the difficult partner in this scenario? What was your strategy? How did you go about it?
um, I I don't remember. I would have to make it up. Um, he was just kind of an irritating person to work for. I don't, and I honestly, I am sorry. I don't remember what the issue was. Like whether he thought, um, yeah, I remember. I don't even remember his full name. I can sort of picture him. Um, and in those
It's
cases, it's
completely
like
okay
you
if
just
you
kind of
cannot. Yeah,
sorry.
we can skip. I said it's completely okay if you cannot recall anything regarding that particular
Yeah,
point. Always skip that part. It's okay.
yeah,
Because you shouldn't
and
really put yourself into a situation where you find it difficult to really answer questions in the interview process, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the
So,
FTC
all right.
proceedings.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
also the
exactly.
FTC proceedings. I vaguely remember. Like I know who I worked for, and I
Yeah.
think I remember the client, but I don't remember what the issue was. Like if it was I want to say like maybe it was false advertising. Because I think it was one of those like those television QVC marketers or sellers, but I don't remember what the issue was, and
It's
I have to
it's
research it. Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
have an
completely
annotated version of this
yeah.
resume somewhere that's meant to jog my memory, but I don't know where it is.
Okay. Can you tell me the names of some top clients that you handled while with this firm, particular firm? So just to add that flavor to your resume, that.
So like Kay Scholler was in. mostly the biggest client was Visa.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, was Pfizer.
Pfizer, yeah.
At Arnold and Porter, the biggest clients were Visa and Altria, which is
Yeah.
the parent company of, um, oh gosh, like John Middleton and other tobacco companies.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And the SEC investigation was, it was GE, so it was like their financial arm. But yeah, Altria, Visa, and GE, I think were like
Okay.
the big
Okay.
clients that on the important.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, is there anything else that you'd like to add to this particular role? Here.
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think this
So,
the one thing at K Schuler that I would note is that, um, and I don't know how to put this, and maybe it's something you convey in an interview and not on paper, is that I was doing, you know, substantive work as a first
yeah.
year associate. Like a lot of my peers were reviewing documents, um, and that's not something I experienced there.
Okay.
Um, so I feel like, you know, I was able to, you know, begin substantive work, and
Okay.
right when I got there.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll keep that in mind. Um, okay. So for the federal clerkship, can you just like briefly describe what the position was about? Did you face any particular challenges here when you first came into this role? Just a brief description so that we can,
Yeah, so
cover
the
this part.
clerkship,
Yeah.
it was federal clerkship. Um, I think the two of the main challenges
Yeah.
there were oftentimes the complexity of the cases,
Yeah.
um, and then for me personally, it was, um, I think I felt insecure and in over my head in terms of having to, basically develop and recommend an opinion for the judge who was 100 times smarter than me and
Yeah.
trying to write something that I thought he was willing to put his name on. So I think it was two things, right? It was the substantive work,
Yeah.
that it was often complex and challenging, and then that insecurity of just,
Yeah.
really getting in my own way and being my worst enemy in that process. And I
Okay.
don't know that I overcame that. I
Yeah.
think the action was that I did what I could to the best of my abilities.
Yeah.
The judge was happy with me. He he had no concern about my work or my ability to do the work.
Yeah.
I think it was one of those things where it's your second job out of law school, and
Yeah.
it was, these are prestigious positions, and feeling like, how did I get here? And I'm not smart enough to be here, and I'm not smart as the guy sitting next to me. Um, so there it
Okay.
was more of a personal, um, hurdle.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, I think I was fortunate to work for a very smart and kind human being.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to put that on a resume, or if I want to put that on a resume, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think objectively speaking, uh, you know, it was dealing with a variety of cases,
Yeah.
sometimes complex, and having to become an expert relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And it was challenging, and you did it because you had to, because motions and things needed to get decided. We
Yeah.
couldn't just hold up things, and um, it was it might have been one of the harder jobs I've had, if I think about it, because I don't think research and writing,
Yeah.
um, was my was my strength. at all. Uh, so I
Yeah.
still don't think it is, quite frankly.
So that sort of
So
led you to where you are today, right? Because that
yeah,
actually helped you figure out what you are good at, what are your strong points. And
right. I think so. Yeah.
okay, that's great. All right. So you under the education section, one thing that really caught my eye was you represented district residents facing eviction in landlord-tenant branch of DC Superior Court a while.
Hmm.
In Yeah. So can you describe that entire thing? You were acting as a
Sure.
student.
Yeah, so that was a clinic program where basically
Yeah.
you get academic credit, you're not paid,
Yeah.
and you give these oftentimes people
Yeah.
who have no
Presentation.
financial resources,
Yeah.
you are providing them free legal services under
Yeah.
the supervision of an actual licensed attorney.
Attorney. Yeah.
And so that experience was very eye opening in terms of being exposed to populations and areas of DC that I would never have seen otherwise.
Yeah.
Um, Seeing the living conditions, like, these people were being evicted oftentimes because they weren't paying rent. And the reason they weren't paying rent is because they were living in uninhabitable conditions, so they had every right to withhold their rent.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was definitely a real life educational experience, and then also obviously getting court experience and presenting in front of a judge as you know
Yeah.
a second or third year law student. Um, and it was real life problems. It wasn't fake. These were not mock trials. It was not multi-million-dollar companies. It was people who were fighting to have a roof over their heads. So it was very um, tangible and immediate needs that we were fighting for.
Yeah.
Um, and that's that. And I think I recall it being a full year. So it was a full year program. Um, where that's we represented clients. We we would investigate. We'd have to go to their apartments and take pictures of the ceiling falling or the rats or something, or whatever the poor conditions were. So that's um, you know what that program entailed and what the experience was.
Okay. So what can you share the result of the said case? Like, do you recall that?
Um, God, I do not. I want to be able to say that I kept X number of people from being evicted. Often, a couple of times I remember we were able to reach a settlement or negotiate like a rent abatement where, the landlord would take off
Yeah.
a certain amount from the rent and promise to make the repairs to the property. So sometimes it was a settlement, and we would avoid an eviction. I can't quantify it,
Yeah.
in a
Yeah. Of course, that's
in
okay.
a you know
Um.
in a
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So I guess we are done. We have covered everything that we needed to. Still, if you feel that there's something that you'd like to mention or you want to take away or anything like that, you can tell me right now, and we'll go over that.
Okay. As far as taking away, I think once I see it on paper and I am able to
Yeah. Sure.
read it and manipulate a document, that's one thing. But I think the biggest thing, like, well, not the biggest thing. I think I was talking to a friend of mine who's sort of in a similar position as me, and
Yeah.
someone had looked at her resume and said that your resume looks like you're a doer, but not a leader. And I think that was, um, I don't know, it was helpful to hear, and I think I have a similar concern. Like, of what my resume looks like, right? Does it look like I'm just a doer, I'm a worker bee, or is it, do I want it to look like this is someone who can either affect change or implement things um, strongly and lead. I know the leadership and management is definitely lacking, but is that like I feel like that's the next move for
Yeah,
me is to be in a position where I I I'm not the doer, right? I am the leader, or there's
respond.
a hybrid or there's a bridge there. So
Yeah,
um, my my hope is I don't necessarily know if there's a role out there as a general counsel. Like I still think I'm a step away from that, but I think the like I'd like to move into a position where I'm, higher than where I am now. I don't want to make a lateral move, and I want to move into a position where there's more growth, right? I don't want to go somewhere else where it's like, oh, okay, I've been here 3 years and now I have to go somewhere else. Like I want to go somewhere. I'm going to be in a position where it's like, okay, well, I've been here 3 years and now I'm ready to move up within
yeah.
the organization.
Okay.
Um, so I don't know what that looks like on someone's resume, but that's kind of my vision, I think, of
Yeah,
where to
which is
go.
exactly in line with the position that you're applying for. So, like we cater to a lot of industries, obviously, and a lot of roles, but like we handle three tiers, right? Middle management, and then there are like fresh graduates who have recently started out for an executive position, and then we have top level CEOs and CTOs, and you know
Mm-hmm. Right.
vice presidents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, for senior positions, the resume format is a little different because you need to highlight the soft skills and you need to highlight the